I recognize that our work here in this House involves a certain level of theater and performance. We are here in part to act out the parts that are assigned to us as representatives of the people in line with the great traditions that precede us. At times, that involves some drama, whether genuine or feigned, and at times it leads to hyperbole on both sides of the House. That said, I think it's important to note that this bill we are considering today, Bill 2, is not a radical proposition. The proposals put forward in this bill are not unusual. They are not unreasonable, and they are not unprecedented. These amendments to our tax structure do not represent a radical restructuring of our tax system. They will not cause the sky to fall or Alberta's economy to grind to a halt. These changes simply represent a reasonable correction of our fiscal course. In regards to income tax, this bill will return Alberta to the same form of progressive tax structure found in every other province in Canada. In fact, the small percentage of Albertans who will be affected by this bill, those who, like ourselves, earn more than $125,000 a year, will still pay less income tax than in any other province in Canada, with the exception of Ontario and Newfoundland. The introduction of the flat tax in 2003 put us on a road of increasing dependence on resource revenues to fund the services that Albertans depend on by replacing a stable source of revenue with one that we could not predict or control. This flat tax played no small part in creating the fiscal difficulties we're dealing with here today. We simply can't continue to depend on the price of oil to determine whether or not we can provide the services and build the hospitals and schools that Albertans need and deserve. The flat tax was simply poor policy rooted more in ideology and political strategy than in fiscal prudence or considered choice. So, as I said, this bill simply corrects that error by restoring the fair, progressive tax structure that we have in every other province in Canada. This is not unreasonable. This is not an unfair overreach on the part of government. This is the change that hundreds of thousands of Albertans voted for. In fact, far more Albertans voted for parties who supported a return to a progressive tax system, 1 million Albertans to be exact, 70% of everyone who cast a vote. That's a resounding and decided majority. Albertans support a progressive tax system, and that's what this bill delivers. In regards to the increase in our corporate tax rate, a survey conducted by the previous government showed that 69% of respondents favored increasing the corporate tax rate in Alberta. For years, we've maintained some of the lowest taxes in Canada by far, and it's simply not sustainable. We need higher revenues to ensure that there's adequate funding for our social programs, our services, and the infrastructure that we so badly need, and that I've heard so many members on both sides of the House advocating for us to build. Our corporate tax system continues and will continue to be competitive with other provinces. Alberta will continue to be an attractive option for investors thanks to our infrastructures, our cities, our diverse industries, our growing and skilled population, and the many investment opportunities that remain. The Alberta advantage does not lie solely in having the lowest bargain basement rate across the country. It is not unreasonable, it is not unprecedented to ask those corporations, the large, profitable corporations who have benefited from what we as a province have to offer to ask them to pay a little bit more. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any questions or observations? Honourable member.
In your words, it may not be unreasonable, unusual, radical, or unprecedented, but it is unwise. And it may not be unreasonable, unusual, radical, or unprecedented, but it will hurt the economy. Thank you.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the advice and the concern from across the aisle. As we're well aware, you are here to help. However, I appreciate your opinion, but I think we'll see. These are the actions that Albertans voted for. We were clear in our platform. We didn't hide this under a bushel. This was out there. Albertans looked at it. As I said, nearly 70% of Albertans who voted for a progressive tax structure. I look forward to seeing this bill implemented. I look forward to seeing this new tax structure put in place. And I look forward to the increased prosperity that we are going to see in Alberta.
The honourable member for Cardston-Tabor-Warner. We're in the 5-minute question and clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I appreciate the comments of the honourable member. However, my question to you is, can you show me a precedence of where $18 billion has been introduced in an interim supply bill?
Honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, I would note that that question has nothing to do with my comments or with the bill that is currently under consideration.
Honourable member.
Thank you. I think it had everything to do with what you said there. You were asking for a precedence. You said you had precedence, and so I wanted to find out what precedence that was. But my other question to you is, in business, we have a competitive and comparative advantage. This is what the Alberta advantage was.
Hear, hear.
When we are the same, where is our comparative or competitive advantage? This is my question to you.
Honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the question from the honourable member. Alberta still has many advantages. We do not have a sales tax. We do not have a health levy, which is required to be paid by, often required to be paid by the employers. We offer a skilled populace. We offer a fantastic place to do business. We offer great resources here available for use and for extraction. These are advantages that still remain, and I don't believe that this small raise in the corporate tax rate is going to cause those to fail.